We are going to be reading from chapter 9, text 5 today. So before we read, I would like to chant Mangalacharan. And I hope you all can also follow along with me. And so we can ask their lordships for blessings. Namang Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jai Pataka Swaminiti Namine Namang Ajay Padaya Nitai Kripapadayane Gaura Katha Damodaya Nagar Grama Tarine Namang Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Patsat Deshatarine Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Shagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Shajivam Shadvaitam Shadvadutam Parijana Shaitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 5. So I'm going to be reciting the verse first, and you all can also follow along with me. Nacha madstani bhutani pasyami yogamaishwaram bhuta brinnacha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. Word for word translation. Na, never. Cha, also. Matstani, situated in me. Bhutani, all creation. Pasya, just see. Me, my. Yogam Aishwaram, inconceivable mystic power. Bhuta Brit, the maintainer of all living entities. Na, never. Cha, also. Bhutastaha, in the cosmic manifestation. Mama, my. Atma, self. Bhuta Bhavanaha, the source of all manifestations. Translation. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities and although I'm everywhere, I'm not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I will read the first paragraph and then we can take a volunteer to read the second paragraph. The Lord says that everything is resting on Him. Matstani sarva bhutani. This should not be misunderstood. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this material manifestation. Sometimes we see a picture of the Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. He seems to be very tired, holding this great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna's upholding this created universe. He says that although everything is resting on him, he is aloof. The planetary systems are floating in space, and this space is the energy of the Supreme Lord. But he is different from space. He is differently situated. Therefore, the Lord says, although they are situated on my inconceivable energy, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them. This is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord. Would anyone like to read the second paragraph?
Yeah, I can take over.
Okay, thank you.
In the Vedic dictionary, it is said the Supreme Lord is performing inconceivably wonderful pastimes, displaying his energy. His person is full of different potent energy, and his determination is itself actual fact. In this way, the personality of Godhead is to be understood. We may think to do something, but there are so many impediments, and sometimes it is not possible to do so as we like. But when Krishna wants to do something simply by his willing, everything is performed so perfectly that one cannot imagine how it is being done. The Lord explains this fact. Although he is the maintainer and sustainer of all material manifestation, he does not touch this material manifestation. Simply his supreme will, everything is created, everything is sustained, and everything is maintained, and everything is inherited. There is no difference between his mind and himself, as there is a difference between ourselves and our present material mind, because he is absolute spirit. Simultaneously, the Lord is present in everything, yet the common man cannot understand how he is also present personally. He is different from this material manifestation, yet everything is resting on him. This is explained here as Yagam Asharam, the mystic power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Bhavasharkar ji, for reading. So I'm going to recite the verse one more time. Nacha matstani bhutani pasyami yogamaishwaram bhuta vrinnacha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. And translation one more time. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities and although I'm everywhere, I'm not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. This is a very important verse and translation, and Srila Prabhupada has so nicely written this purport to explain this verse. So now to further dive into this verse, I'd like to present something very small, even though I'm not at all qualified, but I'm depending on the mercy of Shishi Guru and Gauranga to be able to present something that may be effective for everyone. And I ask for all of your blessings again, so I can get the spiritual strength. So we just read the third verse of the 9th chapter. But before we dive into this verse, I wanted to go over a brief overview of the first 3 verses that we read in this chapter, because these 3 verses have a certain theme, which is hearing, and Lord Krishna describes the qualifications and disqualifications that are related to hearing. So the qualification is that Arjuna is the most qualified to hear the most confidential knowledge because he is free from envy. So this is very important, because when we're very envious, then whenever we hear something from the authority, then we're unable to accept it because we think that we know more than anyone. And the proper hearing, we can read in these first three verses, is that it is the means to obtain most confidential hearing. And what is the benefit that we get from this? We get relief from miseries of material existence. And the next theme, which comprises of verse 4 to verse 10, we read about the Aishwarya Gyan, or Krishna's relationship to the world. So in these verses, Krishna explains his own Achinta Veda Ved, which is inconceivable, and it is the relationship with the material world. So what is the purpose for us to know about Lord Krishna's inconceivable relationship with the material world? The purpose is for us to stimulate our reverence and devotion for Lord Krishna. And then we can conclude that Lord Krishna is the supreme object of worship due to his unique and supreme position in relation with the material creation. Now, in this verse, one of the main phrases is Yogam Aishwaryam, and which means inconceivable mystic opulence of the Lord. And we can read about that because Lord Krishna says that everything that is created does not rest in me. And this implies that even though everything rests in Lord Krishna, he is still aloof and not directly concerned with maintenance, which we can read in the previous verse that was discussed last week. And some of the examples of these inconceivable opulences are that, for example, planetary systems, they float in space, and space is the energy of the Lord, but he is different from space. And the Lord's potencies are exemplified by his determination. There is no difference between his mind and himself because he is absolute spirit, and all activities are performed by his willing. Another term that we read in this verse is yujyate, which means inconceivable pastimes are performed by his energy. Now, there is an argument that can be made by non-believers who can say that since God has expanded in everything, then everything we worship is God. However, to refute this argument, Srila Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is everywhere, everything is in him, but he is still aloof. And to further understand the fact that Lord Krishna is everywhere, he's omniscient, omnipotent, I want to share the story of Sakshi Gopal. And it is a very, very famous pastime of the Lord. So even though it is very detailed, I'm going to say it in a very concise and short, summarized way. So the Sakshi Gopal story comprises of the deity who was called as witness. And it starts off with once upon a time, two Brahmanas from Vidyanagar which is in South India, they toured holy places of pilgrimage in northern India. And one of the Brahmanas was an elderly person, one of the Brahman was a young Brahman. And after a long time, they reached Vrindavan, which is the sacred place of Lord Krishna's pastimes, and they took bath in the holy waters of Yamuna, and they visited Govardhan Hill, and they also visited all the 12 forests of Vrindavan. Eventually, they arrived at this great temple where gorgeous worship of the Gopal deity was being performed. And this Gopal deity is none other than Lord Krishna himself in his eternal form as cowherd boy. And the beauty of this Gopal deity was so magnanimous that it completely attracted these two Brahmanas. So they wanted to remain there for 2 to 4 days. And since one of the Brahmanas was elderly, the young Brahmana who accompanied him, he served him out of love and respect. And the older Brahman was then so pleased with the younger Brahman that he offered his daughter to the young Brahmana in marriage because he was so grateful for this service attitude. He had never encountered someone like this in his own family. So that is why he promised his daughter to the young Brahmana. And the young Brahmana, he immediately objected because he was not so wealthy, and so he said that I'm not at all qualified and I'm not a suitable groom for your daughter. And he told the older Brahmana that you're very educated and you are wealthy, but I don't have such a decent education and I don't have any wealth. And so your wife and your sons will never agree to this. But the elder Brahmana, he was very adamant, and he really insisted that he will give his daughter in marriage. And so then the young Brahmana said, if you really have decided to give your young daughter to me, then say so before the Gopal deity. And in those days, it was a custom that if you make any promise in front of the deity, then you would never dare to tell a lie in front of the deity. So it was a very, very respected promise to give in front of the deity. And so then the elderly Brahmana told the deity, my dear Lord, you are my witness. I shall call for, okay, so he, no, I'm sorry. The young Brahmana then told the Lord, my dear Lord, you are my witness. I shall call for you to testify if it is necessary later on. And then weeks passed by, and the two Brahmanas finally came back to Vidyanagar, and they went on to their separate ways. They went back to their respective homes. And eventually, the elderly Brahmana, he remembered the promise and he told his family, but his family and friends, they convinced the elderly Brahmana that his young daughter is much, much, much more qualified than this poor young Brahmana. So then they convinced him that you should just forget about this promise. And so then the elderly Brahmana forgot about it until the young Brahmana came, and he asked what happened, and then the elderly Brahmana, he pretended like he didn't remember anything, and so he refused to give his daughter in marriage. And so the young Brahmana, even though his intention was not to get married to the daughter, but he wanted to respect the fact that the elderly Brahmana promised to the Lord, so he wanted to keep that promise. So then the young Brahmana went back to the Gopal deity and he asked him to come with him for witness. And then the deity spoke, because the young Brahmana was such a great devotee and he served the Lord out of great devotion, that the deity actually spoke to him. And the deity said, "I've never heard of a deity walking from one place to another." And the Brahmana replied, "That is true, but how is it that you're speaking to me, although you are a deity?" "My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna himself." So then Lord Gopal smiled and said, "My dear Brahmin, just listen to me. I shall walk behind you, and in this way I shall go with you. Do not try to see me by turning around. As soon as you see me, I shall remain stationary in that very place. You will know that I'm walking behind you by the sound of my ankle bells. Cook 1 kilo of rice daily and offer it to me. I shall eat that rice and follow behind you." And so they went on this journey to go back to Vidyanagar, and Lord Krishna, or the Gopal deity, followed along behind the Brahmana. And they eventually reached outside of his village. And at that time, for some time, the Brahmana didn't hear the ankle bells. So he thought, "I shall go to my home and tell all the people that the witness has arrived." And thinking this, and he turned to look back, and he saw that Gopal deity was still there, smiling. And the Lord said, "Now you can go home. I shall stay here and shall not leave." So because it was right outside the village, the Brahmana quickly went to the villagers and announced that the deity has come with him as a witness. So when the villagers heard of this, they were completely amazed, and they went to the deity to offer their respectful obeisances. And in this way, Lord Gopal bore witness that the elderly Brahmana indeed promised to offer his daughter to the young Brahmana, and then the marriage ceremony was duly performed. So when the king of that country, or Odisha, heard of this magnificent story, he came to see the deity and constructed a wonderful temple. But however, this deity was then later on moved to Cuttack in Odisha from Vidyanagar. So what can we learn from this sweet pastime? We can learn that the Supreme Lord is witness to all of our activities. He's present everywhere, and we can speak to him in the form of a deity when we develop our spiritual qualities and also sanctify our senses. So this pastime was adapted from Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I highly recommend all of you to read not only read this story in detail, but also visit Sakshi Gopal Temple. As you can see on this slide, you can see the beautiful deity of Sakshi Gopal, and you can also see this wonderful temple that is now built in Odisha. So I really hope that you all can visit this magical deity when you are in Odisha. We personally had the good fortune of going to the Sakshi Gopal temple, but at that time I was not so much aware of the significance of this story. But as I grew up, and I've been hearing this story so many times, and I really want to go visit again next time I'm there with my family. So, and even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu visited Sakshi Gopal temple. So it is a very, very significant temple and deity. So I will stop there, and if any of you have any questions or comments, please feel free to unmute. Or if you have any corrections.
Yes,
Thank you
please.
so much for listening.
I've got
Yeah,
a question.
that's a wonderful story, Vishnu Priya. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Sudhir Trivedi ji.
Can I
Well,
ask a question, please?
Yes, Mr. Nick Chaudhary ji.
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
There seems to be some contradiction in the translation and the story. God is everywhere and in everything. Is that correct?
Yes, in a way.
Oh, okay, so we'll talk about that. And I like to learn about it because I'm confused. So God, if God is everywhere, so everything is in God. Am I right? God is much bigger than everything.
God is present everywhere. He is omniscient. He's omnipotent.
Correct.
He's
Agree.
present through his energy.
Right. So God is energy plus matter. God is manifested through the matter. That is how we see him. All manifestation is God's manifestation. So when you say Lord is not directly concerned with maintenance, isn't it something wrong? God is a creator. One of the Trinity is Brahma. He's a creator part and he has created everything. Vishnu is the preserver. So are you not contradicting? Once we create something, we become responsible to maintain it. Your mom, dad, they're responsible for bringing us or you in this world, and they took care of you, they maintained you, educated you. Is it not the duty of Lord to take care of all that he has created?
Can you repeat the last part of the question, please?
What I'm saying is that when you create something, some living being or unliving being, you become responsible for the maintenance of that thing. God is providing for every living being. Nobody goes hungry, whether he's a meat eater, he's a vegetarian, he lives in trash, any form of, you say 840,000 different forms of life, all forms of life are being maintained according to the creation and their needs. But in your translation says that Lord is not directly concerned with maintenance. That is confusing to me.
Yes, that is completely understandable, and it is such a vast subject for us to unfold. It will take a really long time, but I just remembered how in the fourth verse of the 9th chapter we read last week about this example, and I'm going to share my screen again for that. So in this example in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, for example, a king heads a government, which is but the manifestation of the king's energy. So the government is a manifestation of the king's energy. And the different government departments are nothing but the energies of the king. And each department is resting on the king's power. But still, one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. That is a crude example. Similarly, all the manifestations that we see and everything that exists, both in this material world and in the spiritual world, are resting on the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So,
Agreed. I already said that God is equal to his energy plus the matter. God is manifested through matter. That is how we can see it, because our vision is very limited. We cannot see God energy, but we can see God's manifestation.
Right. But just because we can see God through matter, it does not mean that God came from matter. God has different energies, but because we have material senses, we can only see matter with our material senses. We do not have spiritual senses to see God or his energy. For example, we are breathing this air, but we cannot see it, right? But the air still exists and we're still breathing it. But how do we know that the air is there? It's because we are breathing and we are alive. So that's how we know that there is oxygen in the air. However, we cannot see it, right? So this is a very elevated topic, which I don't feel completely qualified to speak on it. So I'm going to ask my father to come in and explain it further.
Before you take over, sir, I do agree that science, our senses, they perceive, but there is a limit to them.
Yes, yes, definitely.
God is above our senses. Our senses go to a certain limit. Science goes to a limit. But God is beyond our senses. Through his mercy, we can experience him. We cannot see. Our eyes are not strong enough. We are not blessed. Even Arjuna was not blessed to see his manifestation till Lord Krishna gave him those powers and special powers he could see.
Yes.
But here in this translation, it is kind of contradictory to me. On one side, you say Lord is witness to all our activities. Agreed. If God is witnessing, it means God is present everywhere. And if God is present everywhere, how can he be not directly concerned with maintenance and our activities? We can't have it both ways.
Yeah, Hare Krishna ji, I understand your questions.
I
Okay,
want
Vishnu.
to add one more thing.
Okay.
So Krishna is present everywhere, and that is the principle. He's in the atom, also in between the atom, and that makes him omnipresent. But he is omniscient because he is present as Paramatma, or the super soul in our heart. And that is how he can be witness to all of our activities, because he's in each one of our hearts, accompanying us and witnessing all of our activities. And I think you can say more. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, actually, thank you so much, Dr. Chaudhary. You asked a very scientific question. It is very difficult unless we surrender to the Lord and depend on faith. You know, you look like emotional speaking. God is everywhere, but how he is not taking care, who is meat eater, who is doing nonsense things. But Krishna gave us free will, willing, thinking, and feeling. These three things, actually, when Krishna created this material world, we like to enjoy ourselves independently. Therefore, sometimes we disconnect. Like if you have a children, those child or daughter is obedient to you, then you don't worry about anything. But some children, they don't listen to their parents. Though parents have same compassionate, same sympathy, same love to everyone, but some children, they like to enjoy independently. This is actually Guru's example in this material world, and it comes from Lordship, and it is truth. Because the time of Krishna, when he performed his pastimes, his glorious activities, you see the Jarasandha, you see the Bhishma, they couldn't understand. Though Krishna is present and he's showing his like the Vishwarup, but still, because they are very atheistic. If you don't have like the faith, if we don't have that belief, then actually Krishna is like though he's present, but will not see him. Like you see the Puranas, when Nrsimhadev appeared, then Hiranyakashipu asked, where is your lordship? And Prahlad Maharaj knows Krishna is everywhere. He has a strong faith. Therefore, he told, yeah, Krishna is in the pillar also, but yes, he's also in the pillar. So though he is not, he is creating everywhere, his energy is everywhere, but still the non-believer, they cannot see him. But if you have faith, then you can see. And Krishna gave us independence. That is why we are misusing his free will. Therefore, sometimes some miscreants, they cannot see Krishna. They cannot see God. Even though Krishna is creating, even the meat eater, all kinds of his, like 8,400,000 species of life. So Krishna gave us free will, like Jeeves actually called the Tatastha Shakti. Like the three kind of energy in this material world, it is philosophical, look like a philosophical, but scientifically you can prove, like Mahamaya and Yogamaya, and Jeev is Tatastha Shakti. Tatastha, that means I have a free will, I can kill somebody, I can love somebody. That not means Krishna is sanctioning you are killing somebody, because you have some kind of bad habit, some kind of like the such a severe habits. Then Krishna gave you free will. You can go back to Godhead, the Antaranga Shakti, or you can take off from this suffering. So that therefore, actually, we call the living entities is called the marginal energy. And if you read like the 15th chapter of Bhagavad, 15th chapter, 7 verse, Mamoi Bangsho Jivoloke, Jivo Bhuta Sanatana, Mamo Shashtani Injani Parkite Sthani Kashwati. Actually, we are part and parcel of God, Lordship, God, but for our free will, we are misusing, therefore, actually, we are suffering. We cannot, sometimes, though Krishna is creating us, still we cannot take shelter of them, because we like to enjoy ourselves independently. Therefore, you see so many, like the path, so many individual thinking, and all the living entities, even your family members, you will see everybody is thinking differently. Though you are taking care of everybody, you are giving your blood, your money, your all life for the family members, but still they are different, because their identity is different. So I know it is a big subject matter, but we can understand once we surrender, because we are his servant. Our attitude should be always the servitorship attitude. Then we can get his mercy. And we see so many, like the Vishnupriya actually presented that story. I like to focus that story, because sometimes we don't understand, we don't want to believe, we don't want to catch it, because we don't see God. Though we are, Prabhupada always saying, it is not very difficult to see God. God is everywhere. God is giving all the energy, all the power, like the unmanifest, but still like the sun among sunshine and sunshine. Sun is giving through his globes, the sunshine. And without sunshine, we cannot see everything. That means the sun is called sunshine, Sun Narayan. Is a manifestation of Narayan. So through his energy, we can see everything, but still we don't want to believe, because we don't see. Therefore, the Shakhi Gopal, this story actually manifests. Even you can see another story, like Madhavendra Puri 530 years ago, when Madhavendra Puri visited one temple, and he was a pure devotee, because he was observing Krishna's devotion 24/7, and it's called Kirtsara Gopinath. Actually, Gopinath Ji is another temple, is Gopinath. It is also in the Orissa. He was hiding 1/4 of yogurt for his pure devotee. And next day, actually, Pujari saw the dream, and Pujari got that out of 7 pot, 1/4 was hiding his back of the temple. And next day, actually, he delivered that pot to the Madhavendra Puri. So there are so many existence is there, but we need practice. Like if you have a degree of swimming or cycling, it does not help you to, swimming. We have to practice. If you practice, we practice, then we can understand him more. We can see him more. That Prabhupada actually through the Sankirtan movement, he actually spread this movement all over the world. And people, nowadays you see you all are intelligent, smart, scientists, and the scientific way they are accepting, because the Prabhupada such a way he presented, people accepts, and the scriptures is truth, and this wisdom of our life. I know I couldn't maybe make you satisfied, but later on personally I can talk to you, then we can go further. So thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much.
And anyone else want to share something, Dr. Ravi Dhawan or Dr. Trivedi ji, or?
Yeah, I would like to talk to you on one-to-one basis.
Yes. It will be great. And come sometime visit my home. You can see the details. We can deliver some books to you. And because I am also unqualified, because I am also practicing devotee. So I feel like if you practice, because the time is precious, going very fast. Every moment we are, losing our life span. So please, Jiva Sharupai Krishna Nitya Das, we are actually part and parcel of Lordship. Therefore, the all qualities belongs to, like we are very small, minute, like a drop of water and an ocean. You can compare like that. Therefore, Krishna gave the knowledge to the human being.
So you realize that you are a drop of water.
Definitely.
The Lord is the ocean.
Yes.
So there's no difference between you and God.
Quality, no difference, but quantity is like the big, like we have a three modes. Everybody like all our God has Sat Chit Anandamay. Sat, that means truth, and Chit eternal, and Anandamay always seeking pleasure. These three things, like the full way into the God. But we have that things, but very small way. We are always looking for pleasure. Therefore, actually, you all are here, or if you are not here, maybe go to the cinema hall or talk to your friends, because you are looking for pleasure. Even eating, doing your job, doing your any kind of activities, looking for the pleasure. And Chit, Sat Chit, they're eternal. We are part and parcel of God. It is very difficult to prove, but I can prove you. And another is Anandamay. I explained the Anandamay how, and the knowledgeable, that's full of knowledge. Krishna belongs to full of knowledge, but we have little knowledge. Like we can give one example, and if you think, you meditate, it is very, very practical. Like Biden is the president of this country. When Biden take any decision, any ordinary man also interfering, he's telling why Biden taking this decision, he should do this. Actually, this is not fault of the ordinary man, because the full of knowledge that belongs to Krishna, and that also we have, because we are part and a parcel of God. Therefore, some knowledge we have. We are thinking, my knowledge, my thinking is more higher than anyone else. Though Biden is, taking decision with his all cabinets, so the big people, but still a ordinary man also interfering. He's thinking Biden should not take that decision. That proves actually that we have knowledge. The three things we have to remember: Sat Chit Anandamay. God is full of Sat, full of Chit, and full of Anandamay. Therefore, God never, you'll see the always never see the upset. Always Krishna is just smiling. Even the time of we are in the Kurukshetra. Okay, Ji, we'll talk to you later. You are very smart and asking very good question.
Let me make a quick comment, if I can.
Thank you, Ji. Dr.
Yeah, so when it comes to devotion, this tark vitark, why, what, it really doesn't work. Okay, so you cannot resolve those questions by going to the science. You cannot resolve those questions by going to the science. Okay, so we got to separate the science and the belief. Okay, the belief is the religion, the dharma. Okay, or you can say that, okay, devotion. So path of the devotion is such that you surrender to the Lord and everything becomes crystal clear. But the key is the surrender. If you do not believe and do not surrender, then all those questions are not going to be resolved. I can give you a half an hour or 1 hour discourse in all my experiences that I personally had with Lord, okay? And maybe one day I will do so, but I can tell you that when you call him with true nature, then he comes there or she comes there right away and says, I'm here, what you need, okay? And I have those kind of experiences. Go back to Mahabharata. Draupadi kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and he did not help Draupadi. But then there was no way, and Draupadi says, Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna. And here he was, and he took care of it, okay? More often than not, when we are in the pain and suffering, or when we are in trouble or problem, we try to exercise all the means, but we just forget to call upon the Lord. But when you do, he comes right there. There is no question about that. And I have personally experienced that.
Thank you, Ji. Actually, you are turning very important point. Even when you go to the shaving place, like the barber shop, you have to surrender him. When you put your head and he is shaving you, he can kill you, right? And you see the story of Patliputra, when Arya Vangsha, the king, what is the name of the king? And Chanakya Pandit was his guru. How actually that miscreants got that when the king was shaving and he killed him. So see, for little things, we have to surrender, we have to believe, we have to have faith. Otherwise, we cannot success. And devotion is beyond of this. We don't see Lord, but how we can believe him? Through practice, through devotion, through belief. And it is very, very important. For small things in this world, we are believing, but we are not believing such a gigantic who is creating, who is giving everything. And by the mercy of Lordship, by the mercy of Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastre Kaya, Labomatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hai. If we can get this pure association, it will be purified. And one day it will manifest. And so many stories. And it is happening in this millennium, like the last 500 years ago. Ajo sei lila kore gorarai, kono bhagyobana dekhibare pai. So Mahaprabhu was doing that pastimes. Thus, the devotee can see 5 places Mahaprabhu is manifesting still. We'll tell another day that story. Okay, next week we'll tell where Mahaprabhu is residing, and you can see. So thank you so much, Ji, and everyone. Please join our this satsanga, this sadhu sangha. We'll learn from you also.
Yes, the more discussions we have, the more we can learn from each other. And one thing that I just remembered was in the beginning of my presentation, I did mention how Krishna explains his own Achinta Vedavid. So that basically means inconceivable. And so Krishna's relationship with the material world, it is inconceivable for us conditioned souls to fully understand. He is present and he's also not present all at the same time, because he's present everywhere with his energy, and he's also present within our Paramatma. But he really manifests himself as his own personality, as Lord Krishna, when we call for him with the devotion. When we actually perform devotional service, then we can actually interact with the Lord himself. So with that, we will now move on to the last part of the program, which is Aarti. I know it's a little past 12:30, but I hope you all can still stay.
In 10 minutes, we'll finish Aarti.
Yes, so just give us one moment. I'm going to switch the camera.
Other devotee have a lot of questions, but next week we're gonna discuss.
Yes, we will continue.
Dr. Baba Sarkarji, I think he was thinking to ask something. Next week we're gonna share.
Yeah.
And other devotees who are singer, next week please prepare for sing. because then you'll feel some difference. So thank you so much for your association. I am also getting purified to get your association. Every week we always eager when that day will come and we'll get together. And one day, when the pandemic will over, we'll cook prasadam. Actually, this part actually our job, but we couldn't make prasadam long time because after the program, people enjoy prasadam. So Harival, thank you so much. Please God forgive us if we make any mistake. Thank you so much, Harival.